Hello everyone, my name is Tsvetina Peneva-Asenov, and today I am presenting my authentic leadership hosted to you. We start from slide number 1. What are the leadership lessons that we can learn from the current COVID-19 crisis? Introduction. Globally, the coronavirus epidemic has resulted in massive death tolls in the unimaginable human misery. Economically, it has caused a significant crisis with production seizing the impacted nations, consumption and confidence plummeting, and stock markets reaching badly to increased uncertainty. The possible new ways of groundwater pollution and lengthy change in customer behavior as a result of the pandemic are largely unknown, as are safely business best practice customer requirements, government ending and recovery plans such as a system for the worst in business. Due to the risk of infection that comes with running a business, corporate executives are responsible for stopping or slowing the spread of the virus, such as manufacturing and distributing products and services or conducting a business trips. Crisis in COVID-19. The crisis caused by COVID-19 has had a big effect on the performance of small and medium-sized businesses in the UK. Small and medium-sized businesses in the UK have lost a lot of money because of COVID-19, and the government help has been critical for those businesses. In the short term, policymakers may expect that more and more people will join the different programs that help people. The pandemic has had an effect on all market sectors, although it has been more severe for some companies and industries than it has been for others. A number of factors, including the potential for infection from a variety of activities, the capacity of enterprises to conduct operations remotely, and implementation of regulations to control the spread of the virus, have all contributed. All of these things have had an impact on ongoing operations, as well as expectation towards the spread of the virus have all contributed. Since the end of the Second War, the world has not been faced with a catastrophe of this scale as COVID-19 epidemic. What started out as a public health emergency quickly moved into an economic emergency, putting enormous pressure on business leaders to safeguard not only the public's health and jobs, but also their wider communities and a convoluted system of stakeholders. This crisis had its own origins in public health emergency. Approximately 7.6 million jobs, or 24% of all occupations in the UK, are in danger due to COVID-19 caused lockdowns. People and locations with the lowest wages are the most susceptible to harm. Prior to the COVID-19 lockdowns, a far bigger proportion of the commerce in the UK, around 20% of non-fuel purchases were already conducted online. The crisis had accelerated this tendency. Compared to other countries in Europe, the UK has a much larger share of retail that is done online. Within the context of COVID-19 dilemma, there are a variety of elements that are both working in BAME employees, favoring and working against them. On the other hand, non-white employees make around 60% of important workers, which are a greater proportion than their participants in the broader workforce. Unfortunately, there is a substantial association between a person's history of poor income and the possibility that they would be furloughed or laid off as a result of the COVID-19 situation. In other words, if a worker had a low income in the past, they are more likely to be affected by these outcomes. This point is made very clear by the analysis of the market sector that came before. In 2019, the median gross hourly wage for hotel and food service activities was around £8.60, while the median gross hourly wage for communication and information services was £19.20. The weighted average medium salary in 5 industries most impacted by the recession is around £10.60 per hour, whereas the weighted average medium pay in 5 industries least affected by the recession is approximately £14.60 per hour, a roughly 40% gain. Investments made now in employee skill development and preparing them for greater trends brought by automation and digitalization will yield significant rewards in both short and long term. The United Kingdom has exceeded significant regional economic disparities for a very long time. If COVID-19 related layoffs accelerate the situation, and disparities are expected to grow substantially. Much will rely on how fast organizations can resume full activities if lockdowns limitations are released, as well as how effectively and stimulus spreading during the following crisis can assist people in poorest places who require it most. On the other hand, it seems that the parts of the UK with lower income are most likely to be affected by this danger in the short term. There's always been need for adult education, which COVID-19 problem will undoubtedly highlight. Even if unemployed people were to recover to pre-recession levels of the following year or two, the structural nature of the economy and labor market would have changed significantly. What are the leadership lessons that we can learn from the current COVID-19 crisis? Theory of leadership. Despite the necessity of crisis management for companies, particularly in the light of the effects of COVID-19, it is debatable if crisis leadership during the pandemic is still in its early stages, both academically and practically. Despite prior experiences with epidemics with like SARS, HIV, avian flu, and MERS, for example, the new reviews research that is revealed multiple cases of severe organization disasters will not evolve in health crisis of pandemic crisis. To this day, there is neither theoretical framework, not a measuring model or crisis leadership that is readily available and well acknowledged. Attempts to conceptualize excessive components of crisis leadership and a build scale basis significant instrument to understand the quality of them are still in their infancy. Any attempt made so far are still at this level 1. Implied leadership theory. Employees, also known as followers, are the important stakeholders for leadership during this time of crisis. Followers anticipates that their leader will effectively manage the situation. They want him to support them through the crisis. They expect that to support them through the crisis. They want to sense this autonomy and empathy, and ultimately they want to assist him get over the crisis. It is possible that during this time of crisis, the desired behavior that followers wants to see from their leaders and difference from their behaviors, their responders to the crisis will be shaped by how the workforce perceive the leadership who are grown in charge. At the core of implied leadership theory are the workers' ideas as of how and what makes a good leader. The theory suggests that the characteristics and behaviors that separate diligent and non-leaders, good leaders, from the poor leaders and excessive leaders, from the ineffective leaders, could be identified using the follower's perspective of leadership, which is premised on the founder's understanding, comprehension, and beliefs. The notion contends that followers' perceptions of their leaders have an impact on how they act around them and at work. As a result, the believer's strategy to crisis leadership is critical, especially given the persistence of COVID-19 problem. This is because there are often differences between how leaders see themselves, especially given and how their followers see them as leaders. In particular, to close gap between how leaders and followers see things and get everyone on the same page, it is important to find out how followers in leadership see leadership. This may take workers more interested on their jobs and willing to go additional mile for their bosses, especially in times of crisis. Leadership is situational leadership theory. Leadership is difficult under any circumstances, but in times of global crisis, the stakes are much higher due to the increased uncertainty. Each kind of leadership can come with its own set of problems that must be overcome in order to be successful handle the crisis. It is conceivable for cognitive leader to be lacking in the empathy and people skill essential to handle crisis in an effective manner. Clinging to a single leadership style or selecting the incorrect style in the midst of crisis are two possible causes of ineffective leadership. Ineffective leadership can also stem from not being open to new leadership styles. It is safe to say that there is no one method of effective leadership that can be used in circumstances given to COVID-19 pandemic dynamic character. Situational leadership holds that a good leader uses a variety of management techniques rather than sticking to one. This is because an effective leader must adapt their management style to a specific circumstances scenario. It is strongly recommended that leaders who take situational approach and management evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of their team, take into account the myriad of factors that are at play at work, and select the management style that is most suitable for the situation that is currently taking place. It is necessary for the leaders to have the ability to switch between several leadership styles or to demonstrate a variety of methods all at once in order to accommodate the ever-evolving requirement of company and its employees. Different personnel will show varying degrees or preparedness during times of crisis, depending on the followers. Preparedness to increase their productivity and competitiveness. A situational leader might select the most appropriate leadership style. Therefore, in times of crisis, situational leadership must display a wide range of leadership skills. Based on our analysis of leadership during the current COVID-19 epidemic, we have determined that a situational leader has no exclusive number of characteristics and styles in order to effectively manage the crisis. In the next paragraph, we'll talk more about them. And then it's time for the last speaking slide, which is slide number 3. Conceptualization of crisis leadership during the COVID-19 pandemic. Compassion and care. During the crisis, it is important for a leader to get support and enough employees and show that the business cares about them. When there is a crisis, executives who are focused on their employees put their needs first. In crisis, show empathy, help people, and resume them to build trust. In the wake of a disaster, compassion and care bring people together. Haslam said that the leaders must make their followers feel like they are a part of connecting instead of cooperating in crisis. In crisis leaders, they need to hear what people have to say, and it shows that when leaders make decisions, they care about their mental and physical health. During the COVID-19 epidemic, it is important to have empathy and compassion. Effective leaders make decisions and policies based on how they feel about other people others are going. During the crisis, leaders need to show what each time employee is worried about and help them deal with it. People feel better when their leaders care about their personal lives. This means showing employees empathy, concern, and compassion during the epidemic, not making sure available to talk. Told managers during the COVID-19 epidemic they should listen to their employees' concerns and give them psychological and managemental in what they need, openness and communication. According to the Irani executive, regular updates on the crisis impact the company are critical effect on crisis management and one of their primary duties. It is a source of solace for their workers going through tough circumstances during a time of crisis. It is imperative that messages can be sent out across a variety of channels and the truth will repeat clear and direct. Workers react much better to what they already know, even if it's bad news, than to what they don't know, which often makes them worry more, or even worse, to misleading half-truths or overload optimistic statements. So leaders need to take charge of the story from the start, being honest about what they know and what they don't know. These deals must not only be clear and reliable, but also open to change. When leaders kept everyone in the loop, observed that people felt less isolated and the unpleasant emotions caused by COVID-19 pandemic subsided. Leaders should maintain open lines of communication throughout the crisis and empathize by the foster adaptiveness. The uncertainty and instability inheres a quickly changed crisis, COVID-19. It is imperative that leaders be flexible and adaptive in their responses. So it is important to always look at the situation and change plans accordingly. As things change, so much the way leaders handle things. When there are crises, leaders should think and act in a way that's flexible and open to change. This includes doing the hard work of critical things while immersing oneself in the situation in order to uncover novel processes, rethink one's approach on solving problems, and gain insight into the phenomenon at hand. It is natural for managers to focus on short-term objectives during the crisis, but excellent leaders recognize that new approach to business and innovation are vital both during and after crisis. Progressive leaders will almost certainly utilize the crisis to test new paradigms, incorporate creative approach and system into rebuilding process, and create procedures that are stronger, more resistant, much forward thinking than ever before. For example, COVID-19 outbreak provides an opportunity to firms and fulfill freshly emergent customer requirement and demonstrate their adaptability to important constituents. Consultation and collaboration. In a crisis, it is easy to act and make decisions without thinking to other people, but leaders can't solve problems caused by the current epidemic on their own. Instead, they have to rely on collaborate in inclusion, decision making, and partition from all stakeholders. The best leaders resist the urge to withdraw during the crisis. They make upon knowledge outside of the people with the right level of skills. They should talk to workers, suppliers, customers, and other groups to get the expert advice they need to make a good choice. Employee empowerment. Giving workers more autonomy over their work environment decrease their intimatic drive, which turns leads to better results and more contributions. Leaders need to give workers a voice in impartial matter by considering their input when making important choices. One of the most fundamental parts of employee engagement is to encourage independent thought rather than micromanage employees. Forster commented that in light of the COVID-19 outbreak, it is critical to give workers more say in company matters and encourage free-flowing dialogue in which innovative ideas might be shared without the fear of realization. Thank you ever so much for taking time to watch at my presentation. My CCL number is 18/046. Thank you.